one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we will proceed to roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Here.
Councilmember Newsom,
Here.
Councilmember Peak,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Here.
Mayor Verbo,
Here.
all present.
All right, thank you. So if you are attending here in person or listening to us online, welcome. We appreciate you taking part in our city council meeting. We're going to begin this evening with presentations in recognition of our outgoing planning commissioners. And so I'm going to go through those. And then when I'm done with each of the three, we'll ask if any of them would like to say a few words, and then we'll take a picture with all three of our departing planning commissioners. First, I'm going to begin with, well, a generic comment for all three that during their tenure, all three of these planning commissioners assisted the city with our objective design standards, the Barrel Creek project, changing our CEQA thresholds, zoning updates, and a large variety, of course, of development review projects. Now, I'm going to begin with Randy Hughes, who is an at-large appointee. That is to say, he was appointed by the entire council after an interview process. Randy brought a unique perspective by working for Southern California Gas. His professional knowledge and thoughtfulness allowed him a unique insight into projects. During his time serving, he welcomed his first son, who joined him on an occasional virtual meeting. Well, there he is now, I see. He had a great sense of humor and took great pride in serving on the commission from 2021 to 2025. Thank you, Randy, for your service. We appreciate it. And if any member of the public listening here or at home wonders what our planning commissioners get for their service to our community, and the answer is they get no pay. So it truly is a volunteer thing that we greatly appreciate them doing. Next is Jeff Van den Eyck, who is also an at-large appointee by the entire council. Jeff is the owner and principal engineer at Eickhoff Design Group. He is also a former employee of the city and has remained involved in the community throughout his life and career. His experience and knowledge of site planning, civil engineering, and civic goals have allowed him to share valuable insights with his fellow commissioners as major projects have come forward for review. He provided invaluable support and leadership, both as vice chair and chair of the Planning Commission, serving on the Planning Commission from 2019 to 2025. He also served on the Design Review Committee from 2019 to 2024. Thank you, Jeff, for your service. Also, Dennis Schmidt. Dennis was most recently appointed by former Mayor Heather Moreno. I believe Dennis also had served at one point as an at-large commissioner. And Dennis is the owner of Granite Ridge Engineering and is a longtime community member. His professional knowledge and attention to detail allowed him to provide valuable insight as a commissioner in the review of projects, as well as grading and design standards. He was a valuable asset to the commission from 2021 to 2025. I think before that as well, because I know he was on the Planning Commission when I was on in 14 to 16. And Dennis also served on the Design Review Committee from 2021 to 2024. Thank you, Dennis, for your service. Now, would any of you, your three gentlemen, like to make a brief comment? You don't have to. Randy, please come forward to the podium, and Jeff. And maybe Dennis, it's up to you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity that I've had to serve the city. It's been a tremendous honor to serve and work with some very fine people on our planning commission. It was quite the challenge to navigate COVID during my tenure, and also running meetings over Zoom. But we had a lot of really good projects, and feel very proud of the service that we as a planning commission were able to render to the city. And it's been my pleasure to serve. And I'm sure you'll see me in the community at my cotton candy stand at various events. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Randy.
It is so weird being on this side of the mic and in these chairs. First off, Jeff was an amazing main chair. I saw him untangle some very complex issues. And I have a lot of respect. So thank you, Jeff, for every time you really helped clean the waters up there. Being on the planning commission was one of the greatest things that I got to do. It was amazing. The access to the diversity of opinions of the individuals on the panel, as well as dealing with the public. It really gave me an adversity for feeling like I could help in so many other ways. When COVID first happened, I started seeing a lot of people in the community struggle, and I felt a calling. I was like, I just need to help in some way. And when the at-large position came through, I was really intimidated. I've had a very unique walk in life, and I was welcomed with open arms to the city, and I really enjoyed my time. There's very few times in life that I felt where I've gotten to be able to give back and truly be blessed with something like that opportunity. And I wanted to say thank you for the city council, all the support, and I really enjoyed the time with the planning commission. So, and Charles, I know you watched a couple sessions, so thank you for also doing your homework every time I talk to you. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Dennis.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I want to say to the commission in which we just left or leaving, it was probably the most enjoyable time I've had in doing this. We really had a good team. We had a lot of fun, a lot of discussions, and it was very, very good. With this, I kind of been looking through my life. I mean, I started this way back when. And my first stint was site council at Santa Rosa School. Then I was on the traffic committee here in Atascadero. Then I was on the SLOCOG, Transportation Commission. Then I went to law school. And then I was at the same time, I was on the Economic Advisory Council to the Board of Supervisors. Then I was a planning commissioner from 2009 to 2017. And then this last stint. So I've had a lot of time doing this, and I really appreciated the opportunity that the city has given me to express myself in all these years. And it's kind of funny when I look back in my life. First time I remember being here, I had a job with Galen Little, and I would drive home. I lived in Los Osos, and I would drive home, had a VW bus, and I'd stop at the old gas station on the way at halfway point. They'd give me a beer. I was underage, but they'd serve me. And I'd say to myself, I'll never live over there. Never, never, never live over there. There's hot. It's just not there. Well, I've been living here for 38 years now, and I can honestly say I'll never leave. And I can honestly say that our community is a beautiful community that is really family oriented. And that's what I love about Atascadero. I've been involved with a lot of things throughout our county, a lot of discussions about communities and how great they are. Nothing compares to Atascadero, believe me. It's been great. So thank you for letting me be part of it.
Thank you, Dennis. I want to add that, during your guys' most recent stints on the planning commission, a lot of very significant projects have come through that will change the face of Atascadero. And those projects are better for your guys' involvement and eyes on and suggestions. So thank you again to all of you. I want to allow any member of the city council comment, but I especially want to defer to Mayor Pro Tem Dares, who spent many years on the planning commission. I don't know, how many, 10?
That was 10 years.
10 years on the planning commission. So if any member of council wants to speak on this, I'll defer to you first.
Thank you, Mayor. I've actually served with no, not with Randy, but with Dennis and with Mr. Mike Van Den Eyck for a couple of years as well. So yeah, when I first started on the planning commission, it was a bit intimidating because even though with my professional background, it seems like it would be well suited, but I had no idea what I was getting in for. But it was a great learning experience. And it was just a great way to connect with the city and be a part of all the great things that's been happening over the years. So I appreciated my time on that, and it was definitely a good step to get to where I'm at now. But I appreciated the people that I worked with. I think planning commission always seemed to work really well, like we do up here in most of our times. So thank you all for your service as well. For however many years that you have done it, doesn't matter if it was 2 or 4 or 10. It's very appreciated, especially because it truly is a volunteer position. You give up a lot of time to do that. and it's very appreciated. So thank you.
Okay, I don't know if anybody else feels compelled to say something. Let's start down at this end with the Councilmember Newsom.
I do want to say thank you, Dennis, for being a planning commissioner. I truly appreciate you willing to step up and serve. And then serving on DRC with a lot of you. It's been nice to have a different perspective and a lot of history and your business savvy ideas. You bring a lot to the table and you will be truly missed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I want to thank all three of the departed commissioners for the service that you've given. I've had the privilege of working with two of you, Dennis and Jeff, on the Design Review Committee extensively as we've done that first look on so many important projects, and your insight and constructive work has been really valuable in shaping projects that are important to the future of this city. And you will see the thumbprint of your work, all three of you, for years to come. And I want to give a particular shout out to Jeff Van Eyck for his experience chairing and also in vice chair in the Planning Commission, that quiet, firm leadership and very respectful way that you've allowed a diverse group of planning commissioners to each bring their unique perspectives to the table. And it has helped make projects better in our community. You know, one of the things that we value as a council is working together respectfully. And you really made that happen on the Planning Commission during your tenure as chair, and have passed that torch along now. And really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seth, I know you're new, so you may not have a comment, so.
Just thanks. I know it's a thankless job, and I had a great opportunity of voting on a couple things so far, designs that y'all worked on, and just really blessed for that opportunity. But I know that a lot goes into getting the train out of the station into the next destination. So thank you for your service.
Okay, at this point, we'll come down to the well here and we'd have a presentation to make to each, and then we'll take a picture with all three of you, so. Yeah.
Hang out with us now.
Yep.
Okay. Since Looks like I left my mic open. We are going to proceed. Our next item is our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine, non-controversial by city staff, and will be acted upon by a single motion of the city council unless otherwise requested by an individual council member for separate consideration. I will now open public comment for consent calendar items. These are items A1 through A4 on the agenda. Okay. I do not see any member of the public coming forward on consent calendar. Does any member of the council have a question or wish to remove an item for further discussion? Number 4, A4, go ahead.
I just want to thank Laura Christensen and the staff for negotiating an agreement that'll be a bit just better for us as customers of the waste management, where, you know, the biannual free waste things are going to be more convenient. You're not going to have to go down and get the voucher the week ahead of time so that you don't have to know in advance that you're going to have stuff that ready to go. And it'll make it a lot easier for people to use. And the city has been attentive to how people use this and the value that it creates and the value of getting stuff out of our garages and other places and into the dumpster when appropriate. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or removal of an item for discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion regarding the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Funk and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Daris. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
and Mayor Borbo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to updates from our city manager,
Yeah.
Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I have several. Starting out on our ECR project, we are making progress week by week. We're really working well. We will continue progress on El Camino between Colony Cinema, Huckleberries, and Traffic Way. If you wonder what we're doing, you can actually see we've pulled a lot of the K-rails, but we're doing concrete work on the curbs and planters. You can see some of the lighting poles starting to come in, the installation of plants. We can see some of the trees. Pavers are starting to go in if you want to see what those look like. Still narrow travel lanes, but it's looking really great. Median work continues on El Camino between Traffic Way and Rosario. Work includes concrete, curb and planter work, electrical lighting, et cetera. So there will be traffic delays still through, but still moving well. K-rail barricades will be removed south of West Mall and added between Virginia Plaza, which is where Toshi's and Hush Harbor, et cetera, are, and Rosario. So the work will shift north as we continue to move forward. That's expected, and that means there's progress. And we'll also continue with concrete curb and planter work on the corners of El Camino Real and Rosario. And so things are really going well, though. And the new pendant lighting posts are going in, as I said. So just a lot of neat things to see. Access to business and driveways always remain open. Please be mindful of bicyclists and pedestrians. Atascadero.org/ECR project is where you can go for more information on look ahead. So you can always see where we're going to be working and what we're going to be doing. And we continue to pay great visits. I saw Mr. Betts in here earlier. He's our there he is. Does a great job visiting our businesses every week. Ryan's walking around talking to people and making sure they're informed. And I really appreciate your personal touch, Mr. Betts. I did want to recognize you for that tonight. You're out there with Lorelei as well. And it's really helpful. Next, for fun, team registrations are going on at the rec center. So adult basketball and adult social kickball, which is quite a phenomenon to watch at Paloma Park if you haven't seen that before. Basketball registration ends March 3rd. So this is one of those things I want to make sure adults in our community that date's going to come quick. March 3rd. This is a short month, so be ready. And for kickball, March 20th, registration ends. So they're open for the season. We look forward to members of our community, quality of life, right? Enjoying themselves out there and getting some exercise and making friends. Next, we have a long heritage of women's history here and amazing women and women in leadership. And so we're pleased to continue to host At Her Table, the street festival celebrating women in business. And so March 9th will be our street fair with 60 vendors this year. We'll be in the Sunken Gardens hosting this expanded event dedicated to celebrating local women-owned business. A lot of vendors, food, drinks, live music, and it's a free event. So let's support our women-owned business on March 9th. The Central Coast Craft Beer Festival is also going to be a hit. Its tickets are on sale now. That's March 22nd from noon to 4 in the Sunken Gardens. Always, again, a great time. Over 55 breweries, ciders, seltzers, wineries, et cetera, will be at this 6th annual Central Coast Beer Fest. Great time. It's food trucks, merchant vendors, lawn games. There may even be a mega-sized beer pong. So, just saying, lots of fun here. You get a souvenir glass and samples from all the breweries. And so we look forward to people enjoying that. Next, we're hosting a business workshop this year that I think is really neat. This is called Drive 2025. I'm really pleased that we were able to partner with this group. This is a strategic workshop and educational summit that will talk about next level tools to grow your business. There's top experts coming to this with a focus on food and wine and hospitality, but it applies to all businesses to help you rethink your business, look at your business plan, evaluate where you are. We're really trying to get into this market as the council's business friendly and has a goal to grow our economy. Hosting these sorts of things and being seen as a place that does these bolsters that reputation that you're doing this. And so I'm really pleased that we're hosting this. The keynote speakers are being flown in. Tickets are on sale now at fullcupsolutions.com. This is on March 26th from 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Pavilion on the Lake. So it'll be a great, great session. Speaking of your goals, I did want to share that I really appreciate the council's focus. Last Friday evening and Saturday, the council met to discuss not just the goals, but how we work well. And I'm really proud of this city and this city council and their respect and adherence to norms and to being professional and really getting our business done. So my hat's off to the council. And these are the priorities the council set for 2025 through 27. Maintaining a focus on economic and community vibrancy. Vibrancy is really the new word. The council recognizes that we're there, and how do we continue to be more vibrant? That we are vital, now we want to be vibrant. And really looking at continued investment in our downtown, jobs, housing, neighborhood compatibility, et cetera. Really looking at continued priority of fiscal and infrastructure efficiency and sustainability. Being smart and responsible with our financial strategies was an addition, and continuing our focus on asset management, replacement, and modernization. And then ensuring public safety and providing exceptional city services, recognizing not just investment in our staff, but also investment in our new Fire Station 2 upgrade and police station renovation, and continuing work on our unhoused population and safety that allows for a flourishing community. So the staff will be adding work plans to these and projects and bringing them back to the council as we move towards the budget. But those are your priorities. Great job, council. And I think that is it. If you have any questions of me, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Good. Any questions for the city manager? Okay, very good. All right, our next item on the agenda is community forum. Community forum is reserved for persons wanting to address the city council for any matter not on the agenda over which the council has jurisdiction. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing matters not on the agenda. The council, at its discretion, may ask staff to contact a speaker regarding an issue or answer brief questions. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record. Anybody wishing to speak in community forum, please come forward to the podium now. Okay, see Mr. Tanamoto approaching.
Hi, I'm Jerry Tanamoto, and I'm here because I own a business here in Atascadero, and it's kind of been a tough situation because it's in the south end of El Camino Real, and we have some homeless people and people who sell drugs and so forth hang out in the Hawkins Plaza, and I've called the police to make sure that they can get these people out of here, but they can only do so much. Their hands were pretty much tied. And I wish there was some way that we could, how can I change that whole venue for the people just to hang out? Because people bring food there to my laundromat and they leave it for the homeless, but I take it out of there because that's what they're going to do is come back. And then people who hang out are some of the people who are selling drugs and they're making money. And I can't always be there because I'm not going to sit at my laundromat 24 hours a day. when people aren't there. So it has become a problem. It really has. And hopefully we can find a solution that can deal with that situation because like I said, I know the police have come, I've called them and they've showed up and they say, we can't do a whole lot because unless they've committed a crime or you see them selling drugs or they're threatening your life, we can't do a whole lot. Well, the only trouble is they keep people out of my business because people do not want to come to the laundromat because these guys are standing out in front. So that's my dilemma. And that's why I'm addressing you guys. Hopefully there'll come up some kind of solution. I don't know what it's going to be, but okay. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak at community forum? Okay, oh, I see. Yeah, please don't wait until the other speakers finish. Come straight to the podium so we don't. Okay, well, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Good. That's. Sometimes it just takes the first one. But if anybody else wishes to speak, please line up behind this gentleman.
The first thing I'd like to address is
I'm
he's
sorry,
right.
Could you state your name
I'm
just for the record?
I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
My name is Edward Guzman and I live at La Paloma Court. And I don't know if gentlemen, if we're or everyone, La Paloma Court, I live right by the park.
Okay,
And,
gotcha.
and,
Could you
that's
just come a
down-
little closer to the microphone?
It's on the south end of the
Right.
of it.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area, actually. It's the gateway to Atascadero, correct? Anyways, to his issue, that's one thing I'm concerned. Every time I go to CVS or the Goodwill, which I love, good stuff, and Food for Less, the sidewalk in front is horrible. I mean, I could show you a picture. You want to see pictures? No.
Not right now, but.
But I could show you,
can
and
forward
it doesn't
pictures.
matter what day I go, it's always the same. It's dirty, it's ugly. There's a drain between the CVS and the Goodwill that drains it, and I have to go around into the parking lot just not to get my feet, imagine if my cousin or someone from Los Angeles comes and visit me and he asks me to take him to CVS, and here I go and there's trash I could show you pictures of trash cans full in the midday. It should already be cleaned. That's all. I'm not asking the city to do it. All I'm asking you is to make a phone call and tell the people that run the store, clean up your act. That would help, right? That's the beginning. These property owners need to, clean and make a good example of their stores. That's all I'm saying. And it doesn't cost anything from the city, just a phone call, right? And the other thing that, I left my paper over there, but December 10th of last year, Scott Newton there was a special meeting December 10th that we held. I don't know if any of you were there, but the planning commission was there, I know, or something like that. And I'm probably one of the only people that showed up from my neighborhood. And the property is 11,450. And it's actually between El Camino Real and Camino Viejo Camino. And it's in between. And if you look on your phones and get on maps, on the west side of El Camino Real, you look at it, and whoever planned it in the planning commission that just left, or whoever, they did a beautiful job. You should see the west side of it.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to wrap it up because your 3 minutes
Okay.
are up. Okay.
Just check it out and look at on the east side. And that was the thing he wanted to change and put 41 units there. And that's all I'm asking. I don't know how to bring up the subject to anybody, but I would sure like, maybe you guys look into that.
Okay,
Maybe
and
extend the
our-
Atascadero grassland, which is already protected,
Okay.
and just cross.
All right.
That's all I'm.
Our community development folks could reach out to you. If you have questions on that, you could contact our community development people. So, okay. Thank you. I see two more.
Hi, my name is Pearl Castro, and I help Mr. Tanamato at his laundromat across the street from Chalk Mountain Liquor. So I'm sure some of the police officers recognize me because I'm usually the one making the calls. And fortunately, the police department did show up when I called them last time because the drug dealer selling fentanyl and meth, he was charging his phone at the laundromat. And I asked him, I said, are you doing laundry here? Because he looked familiar again. He goes, no. And then he goes back outside in front of the laundromat, right where I'm at. And he says, oh, I forgot my phone. He was charging his phone at our laundromat. And I don't know if you know what that feels like. It'd be like a total stranger running into your house. It's not for the public. We covered them all up. So that was the coup de grace. So I reached out to Councilman Mark Darris. He immediately got a hold of our new city manager, Jim Lewis. And Jim, you've done a lot with Pismo. It looks incredible. And I know we can do that for Atascadero. So Mark and Jim, what I'm saying is Jerry and I, we have some great ideas that we have a great Mexican bakery right next to the laundromat. And it's a pity that people can't go there and just try it because we'd have a bread line like in San Francisco and big cities, just waiting to try this incredible food and businesses we have. But every time I look around, they're closed. The Sherbert ice cream store just closed, by the way. So what I'm saying is we have some great ideas to work with the citizens here. And let's face it, most of you have grown up here. So a lot of people know who a lot of the homeless are out there right now. And we need to know our neighbors again. And Mark, we're willing to work with you on this to set up something for volunteers, not too much red tape, but get something started just to help the community so that young man doesn't feel like the only job he has or can get is selling drugs in front of businesses here in Chalk Mountain, Motel 6, unfortunately, our area. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Austin Solheim. I am the Director of Development for El Camino Homeless Organization, but I am actually here tonight because I am a resident of Atascadero, and I am actually a neighbor of the community that is kind of being discussed in this. And first and foremost, I want to thank the community members that have come forward because I have a 2-year-old son and I walk him in a stroller in front of that laundromat every single day. And I appreciate that you call and that you have that. And I'm also very thankful to the amazing work that our city has done, and specifically want to thank Chief Suttles for the work that you have done. Just what I have seen personally as an individual in our community, the work that you are doing is incredible. I know we have a long way to go, but I really do believe that you have come in with a passion for trying to address problems and also coming with the compassion to help others too. I do want to speak a little bit from my experience as working in homeless services though. And I do, as these conversations are so prevalent to today and all the things that we are having, I just want to say that I do believe that there is a distinction that I want to make between homelessness and those that are selling drugs, right? Not necessarily homeless and drugs use, but I just want to address a fact in our community. So as these conversations have been coming up on Facebook and through all of this, there seems to be, this understanding that either maybe all homeless people are addicted to drugs. And I really want to address that is really truly not the case. I'm not saying that no homeless people are. That's not true either. But I also want to address the fact that in our county, we have a true shortage of beds for people that truly want to get help. In fact, we only have a total of 25 beds between two organizations, Sun Street Center and Morro Bay Recovery, that actually deal with addiction. Of those beds, only 6 of them are dedicated to women. And of those 25 beds, only 13 of them deal with people that have co-occurring disorders, that meaning mental health and drug addiction. For someone that's actually interested in getting help and going through recovery in our communities, it is an incredibly difficult process. And that person is waiting for a month before they are being seen and before they are being treated. And so although absolutely I'm in support of everything that Chief Suttles and everything that the city is doing to address specifically the dealing of drugs, I think that that is the root cause. But I just want to separate the issue between those that are using and those that are addicted, because there are services in our community that are trying to help, that are trying to fill that gap and provide services and support them in multiple different angles. But really, sometimes that does take time in our community because of the shortage of beds that we have throughout SLO County. And so I just wanted to come up and say that. And again, very thankful to Jerry and the laundromat owners, because of business owners like you, I feel safer in my neighborhood with my son. And I'm very thankful to be a neighbor next to you. So thank you. And thank you to Chief Suttles as well and the community action team for the great work that they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And Chief, I assume you are aware of this issue. I assume you're aware of this issue and have probably, if you've not, we'll have conversations with Mr. Tanamoto in particular, but other business owners similarly affected.
Right. And I think, a lot of this was on Facebook and a lot of posts were made. So I kind of had some, prior knowledge that this was something that might be talked about tonight. So I looked up a lot of the prior calls that we've had here. And I think that a lot of really good points were made today. And that is, and I think one of the things that you had said, sir, was that, there's just so much that can be done. And that's a really good, interesting point, because Austin also hit on something else that I thought was a really good point. And that is that it's really all about balance. And sometimes we feel like we don't have the balance on our side when it comes to dealing with homelessness or enforcement, for that matter, when it comes to drugs. But that balance does change. And there are things that have happened recently within the law. And there are some things that have happened within our department to try to change that balance, to give us a little more resources that we can utilize to deal with these types of issues. When I talk about the changes in laws, I'm not sure if you're aware, but in November, the state of California passed Proposition 36. Proposition 36 will help us, gives us in law enforcement more tools to deal with drug dealing. After a certain amount of convictions, it now becomes a felony, whereas before, for the last decade or so, it was a misdemeanor, which took a lot of our ability to do anything beyond citations and other things. So the felonies give us some more teeth to actually take care of the issue more in the long term. So that's one side of it. And then within our department, I'm proud to say that, with some of the funds that we've gotten from D20, we've added more officers, which has allowed us to add a community action team and also a special enforcement team. So these are two teams, and we talk about balance. One is all about reaching out to our homeless and supplying resources and also enforcement. They're still police officers. But on the flip side of it, the other side of that coin is the special enforcement team, which, as the name would suggest, is really focusing on a lot of these other more pressing issues like drug dealing. Now that's a new unit for us. Around the same time, Proposition 36 came along. So they're both ramping up together. As convictions start to pile up for the problem issues that we have, and we have our special enforcement team there to start looking into these issues on a more focused, manner. I think that we can bring that balance. So I do agree with you. There's only so much we can do, but I think there's more that we can do now than we could do only 6 months ago. So I'm optimistic. I understand your frustrations and your concerns. And I also appreciate your understanding that, hey, the police are coming. There's just only so much that they can do at the time. But I think that there's more and more that we can do. And I look forward to hopefully helping with this issue.
Thank you, Chief. And as indicated, the council cannot enter into a significant discussion on this matter, so we'll leave it at that. And because the discussion does prompt some questions in my mind, of course, but we'll leave it at that. And thank you very much, Chief. And thank you for those comments this evening from the public. With that, we will close community forum and we will move on to our next item, which is a public hearing regarding the Atascadero Tourism Business Improvement District change to their ordinance regarding the nomination process and composition of the board. And this is a continuation from a hearing we opened at our last regular meeting. I will begin by asking again if there was any ex parte communications. There was none last time, but any since then for a member of the council. Okay, seeing none, we will turn it over to our Community Services and Promotion Director, Ms. Terry Banish, to present this item.
Thank you, Mayor Barbeau, and thank you, council. Good evening. So at the last city council meeting on February 11th, we had a draft ordinance for the lodging business owner nomination process, and composition of the board was heard. And that council continued the public hearing to this evening to modify the ordinance to reflect that the lodging business owners be entitled to vote only for the board member within the category they represent. So I'll quickly review this in our summary of draft ordinance revisions, and forgive me as I read it to you, but this will give a good recap. The ATBID Advisory Board will be comprised of 5 members, with 4 members representing lodging owners in a commercial zone with 25 rooms or more, and 1 member representing vacation rental, bed and breakfast, short-term rental properties that are not considered hotels under the city's zoning code. And then what we added is the lodging owners who represent a vacation rental, bed and breakfast, short-term rental will be able to vote for 1 board member term that is up for renewal representing their category. The same will apply to those lodging owners who are in a commercial zone with 25 rooms or more, and they'll be able to vote for the 4 board member terms when those positions are up for renewal. So it assigns those categories to them. The voting procedures for selecting the candidates to be recommended to council will be left to the advisory board to establish. And the recommendation following the public hearing is staff recommends that council introduce the proposed ordinance making changes to section 3-1607 A and B, I believe, to A and B. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Banish. And, that revised language, I think, was put in place to address questions from council at the last meeting and to try to provide some more specificity. And with that, does any member of the council have any questions for Ms. Banish? Okay, well, we'll save comments for when we bring it back. Any questions, staff? Okay, no, okay, good. We'll see if there's any public comment on this item. Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for any comments and a motion. Go ahead.
I just want to thank Ms. Banish for bringing this back and getting it clear. The language seems very clear now. And so I would move approval if there aren't if everybody's ready for that.
Yeah, we have a motion by Councilmember Funk. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I think Mark or Mayor Pro Tem Daris beat you to it. So we have a motion by Councilmember Funk and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Daris. Please, roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
Mayor Barbeau.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Okay, our next discussion is item B2, a public hearing regarding our community development block grant funding recommendations. I will ask if there is any ex parte communications between council members and interested parties. Nope. Nope. Not this time. Okay, with that, we will turn it over to our Public Works Director, Mr. Nick DeBar, who will present this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Barbeau. Wait for Luke to pull this up. All right, just a real quick background on the CDBG grant program. This is cycle 2025. We participated with other cities in the county. The county does run this on our behalf and administrate it. And it's administered by HUD. It's really geared towards 3 real main items listed here: benefit to low and moderate income persons, aid in the prevention of elimination or blight, or addresses urgent needs that pose serious and immediate threat to the health and welfare of the community. The city council did already review the applications that were received at their November 12th meeting and made draft recommendations. Here is a list of the funding breakdown for the cycle 2025. You can see there's 65 minimum percent that needs to go to a category of public facilities and housing projects. And then there's a max of 15% for public services, and then a max of 20% for administration. And the county does get 13% of this. They do the lion's share of the administration for the environmental review for the projects and solicitation for the applications. So at the November 12th meeting, the city council made the following recommendations. Here in this table are the application amounts that were requested and what the city council draft recommendations were. Tonight is the final recommendations, and what the city council approves tonight will be forwarded to the county for finalization. There's one application from the city of Atascadero for the Via Camino Sidewalk and ADA Improvements Project for $95,248. And then there were 3 applications for public service category. The council decided to award 2 of those, one to the city of Atascadero Recreation Department for the youth activity scholarships for $12,520. And then for ECHO for their operation of the homeless shelter in town for $9,460. And then the other administration costs are usually routine in nature. So the total of all the draft recommendations is $146,534. So the recommendation tonight is to review and approve the funding recommendations for the 2025 CDBG program as shown below in the table, and authorize staff to adjust award amounts proportionally upon receipt of the final funding amount. So that final funding amount usually comes right at the end. But if it's a little different from that 146,534, we adjust the other numbers proportionally. And with that, I can take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeBar. As noted by Mr. DeBar, the council did review these applications and made preliminary recommendations in November. So we did spend considerable time or some time at that point. I'm wondering, does any member of the council have any question for Mr. DeBar? Okay. Seeing none, I want to open it up to public comment. Does any member of the public wish to speak on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we will, yeah. Go ahead.
Austin Solheim, Director of Development for El Camino Homeless Organization. I just want to thank the City Council for their current recommendations and absolutely just say full support for the City of Atascadero Recreation Department as well as El Camino Homeless Organization. These are 2 organizations that work very well together to support locals here in Atascadero. And so just very thankful to the recommendations that are currently there and very much just in support of both the Recreation Department getting funding as well as the homeless services here in Atascadero. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Seeing no one else approaching the podium, we will bring it back to council for comment or a motion. Go ahead if you have a question.
Just for clarification for anybody listening or watching, I did have one person in the community ask me, can you just clarify where this money is not city taxpayer money?
That is correct. This is a federal grant program administered through the Housing and Urban Development. So none of the city taxpayer money is involved in this. So these are block grants from the federal government.
Yeah. Okay, with that, Councilmember Funk.
Yeah, and one other quick question on that. I do know there are a lot of people who used to work for the Housing and Urban Development or currently do are losing their jobs. What will be the status of this, the funding, both our project and what we give out, if there's no one out there that had to write the checks?
That is a good question and one I can't answer at this point. So I guess we'll, the county will monitor that and let us know if there's any issues with that.
I think that its status is unclear and unanswerable at this time. Okay, with that, any other comments or a motion?
I'll move approval.
Okay, of our draft
Of the
recommendations.
draft recommendations as
Second.
stated by council.
Okay, and did I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, so here I have a motion by Council Member Funk and a second by Council Member Peak. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
and Mayor Borbó.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, very good. With that, we are going to move on to item C1, a management report regarding an agreement for the consolidation of Atascadero Transit Services into the San Luis Obispo Regional Transit Authority. This item will be presented by Public Works Director, Mr. DeBar.
Actually, I'm going to hand this one off to Public Works Analyst Ryan Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Betts. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Ryan Betts, Public Works Analyst. I'm pleased to present tonight's agreement for consolidation of the transit services, otherwise known as Dial Ride, with the San Luis Obispo Regional Transit Authority, otherwise known as RTA. Let's go back, sorry. Just a quick background on Dial Ride Services. It actually began in 1979. In its current model, it's a curb-to-curb demand response transit service. Our primary ridership target is our senior citizens, folks with disabilities, and our students. We focus primarily on within the city itself, but we do have some opportunities to take primarily our senior citizens out to kind of the Templeton medical area around Twin City as well. We have 2 part-time transit dispatchers that are not considered city staff. We have approximately 4 transit vehicles. And then our operations are actually contracted with a private firm, MV Transportation. MV Transportation has been our operational private firm for quite some time. We are responsible for a number of different state and federal reporting requirements, too much to list here, but it continues to become a pretty stringent process in doing all the compliance reports and the reporting requirements on a quarterly and annual basis, both at the state and federal level. We've also seen some cost increases in operations over the last couple of years, primarily last year. Those increased by about 30% to operate Dial Ride services with a private firm. And the funding sources for Dial Ride services, primarily federal and state sources, though there is what's called fare box revenue as well. That's what folks actually pay to use the service. Some recent trends we've seen in our own little service. These are very common throughout the county and arguably the nation. And that is really since 2019, i.e. COVID, overall ridership has declined by approximately 57%. Again, this is very common with all kinds of transit services that we're seeing in the county. And at the same time, operational and maintenance costs have increased as well. As I mentioned earlier, the state and federal reporting requirements have become a lot more stringent, taking an enormous amount of staff time to ensure compliance and to ensure those resources come back to the city to operate Dial Ride services. We also have seen some other trends, including challenges with retaining and replacing bus drivers. And though that's an MV Transportation contracted service, it does impact us directly. There are some cases where drivers are simply not available, they're short-staffed or whatnot. And on occasion, we've had to either push back or even not have services during certain times of the day, which is really impacting some of our residents. We've also had some challenges of retaining and replacing our own transit dispatchers, primarily because of competitive wages and benefits and things of that nature. So all those kind of challenges have been solved, if you will, by other cities in the county. I'm going to list those right now, so bear with me. Morro Bay, Paso Robles, Rio Grande, Grover Beach, and Pismo Beach have already consolidated their transit services with RTA, recognizing some of the challenge that they simply cannot provide that level of service that their community wants and needs some help from RTA. So what is RTA? RTA is a joint powers authority. All cities in the county, including the county, are members. They provide safe, reliable, economic, and accessible inter-community public transportation. So that often includes fixed route services. So for us, that's fixed route 9 through Atascadero, paratransit services that primarily assist folks with disabilities, and then seasonal trolleys. And that inter-community public transportation is key. They help connect not only the different provide services within that actual dollar ride, if you will, city, but they also help connect it to their fixed routes. So folks can travel from Paso Robles all the way down to Rio Grande. They have an entire team, I would call an army, to manage state and federal reporting and compliance requirements. And then they are actively participating on regional transportation plans and studies, primarily through their board and the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments. So staff started to have conversations not only with RTA, but with our sister cities, if you will, about what that looks like and feels like when and should RTA consolidate our own dial services. And from the conversations we've had from other cities, it has been working quite well. So when we started working with RTA staff, we really wanted to understand what those services look like, what does that feel like, and what successes can we glean from their recent consolidations, primarily with Paso Robles and Morro Bay. What we learn is what you have in front of you tonight. That's pin on pad. RTA is proposing, very similar to our sister cities, to manage our dollar ride operations with a focus on increasing customer service with our riders. How they do that? They consolidate the branding. They have a lot more marketing efforts, and it's a little bit more of a one-stop shop for folks that want to use our service and then get onto the fixed route service. They would own, maintain, and replace transit vehicles and equipment. Many of these shuttles and vans are quite costly, and they certainly need an enormous amount of maintenance because they're on the road so much. They would handle and submit all the federal and state reporting requirements. They would incorporate dial ride services into their transit-related plans. They're consistently looking at efficiencies in the system with the rider customer service in mind to develop where the transit services are now and where they're going to be needed into the future. One of the things that they're tasked with other cities and their own is to implement the California Air Resources Board requirements for the transition to zero emission vehicles. And that includes charging stations and the cost and maintenance to do that, which is worthwhile efforts, but certainly can be a burden, if you will, on a staff of our size. Part of the agreement is they will submit quarterly service updates to the city. So these are quarterly reports on service levels, number of riders, any issues, any things we can work on. And that partnership is critically important. We already work with RTA on a number of other things related to our transit services and other things. This would only strengthen that partnership. Then they would also develop and submit a draft annual budget to the city. This primarily happens in the spring because they have to go before their board as a consolidated RTA budget in May. And so they kind of review operational maintenance and capital needs. And then we have that conversation about, we would have that conversation, should council approve it, about what that annual budget looks like and discuss service level. So it's a little bit of a negotiation, if you will, to kind of watch out for budget issues. Another important thing that they offer as part of the kind of service is they actually provide better competitive wages and benefits for their drivers. And so though we've had some challenges retaining and keeping bus drivers for our riders, they don't have those challenges because they have a higher competitive benefit and wage package, if you will. So their retention for their drivers, though they're always looking higher, is not as in dire need as ours. So fiscal impact, working with RTA, reviewing our operations and maintenance and capital needs. They submitted kind of an approximation of approximately $650,000 on an annual basis. That covers administration, operations, and maintenance. It's important to know that's approximate. We still need to do a really deeper dive, should council agree with this, starting literally in the next couple of weeks as we plan ahead. But that's a pretty good estimate. It is very similar to our current budget right now for transit services. So it's within the ballpark with some opportunities to negotiate. Again, those are our services. Their services are primarily funded through state and federal resources, through primarily TDA. Those would be part of the funding source that we would just simply transition from Atascadero to RTA. The agreement would be subject to CPI and service level negotiations with the city that would occur again this spring. The contract, as it is kind of written now, would begin late June 2025. Staff and RTA believe we still need some time to kind of iron out the wrinkles and whatnot to ensure that, again, the riders have minimal, if not any impact starting in June or July 1, if you will. And we in fact want to see improvement on rider experience as well. So that's why we need some time to get that approved and reviewed. Next steps. Should council approve this tonight, it would go before the RTA board on March 5th. There's a little bit of a typo there for the SLOCOG board. Actually, it won't go before the SLOCOG board till April. So that's March for RTA, SLOCOG board in April. We would start to work really intently with RTA on our year-to-date operating financial results. And then we would partner and develop what that looks like and feels like in terms of an operating and capital budget for next fiscal year. And then all that kind of comes together and gets consolidated as part of RTA's budget process, if you will, similar to ours. That happens a little earlier than ours, though. That happens in May of this year. And again, the agreement would go into effect June 22nd, 2025. So the recommendation before you tonight is for council to approve the agreement for consolidation of Atascadero Transit Services, aka Dial-A-Ride, into the San Luis Obispo Regional Transit Authority, RTA. I would like to note that I've invited, and he's graciously decided to attend, Jeff Straw, the Executive Director of RTA, should you have any questions directly for RTA or for staff. And with that, that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betts. Very thorough and easily understood report as usual. I would like to, before we go to council questions, and of course, we may have questions for Mr. Straw, but invite Mr. Straw as a great RTA Executive Director. Do you have any comments that Mr. Betts did not already cover?
Well, I will say this is somewhat of a homecoming for me. When I graduated from college in 1988, I went to work for a company called Dave Transportation Services. Those of you who are here way back when, they operated the Atascadero Dial-A-Ride program. And as a brand new, fresh-faced analyst, I was sent to Atascadero to do a financial review of the Dave Transportation contract. So I've been long involved with these types of services. I've been doing this for a long time. We're excited to do this work. I will say that the consolidations we've done in the past in the county, I believe if you talk with any of those cities, they're happy with the arrangement here. And the main thing that we like to emphasize is that the local control stays here. Service levels, fares, all the things that affect the riders are. We present those back to you, and you make those decisions. So we're eager to help and to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Straw. If you wouldn't mind staying right there, I want to see if any member of the council has a question for either Mr. Betts or Mr. Straw. We'll start at that end with Councilmember Newsom.
It's more of I currently serve on the SLOCOG and RTA board, so I will be hearing this within the week. I do notice in the staff report, it's listing that it looks like RTA SLOCOG is going to be assuming one of our vehicles. It looks like all of them are retired. Everything has a zero value but one. And it said it would be trued up. When do you see that happening on the value of that vehicle transfer?
Well, so the agreement has a clause in there to protect the city. This is a contract that we would enter into an agreement. If there was, for some reason, a year from now or whenever, if that wanted to be severed, there's a way to capture the value and bring that value back to you. One of the real benefits of this is you've got some older vehicles that you're using as backups, and they're very expensive to replace. We're able to share those resources and share the spare vehicles. We call them spares. So sometimes a rider may see a green and white bus come pick them up a runabout or another dial-a-ride vehicle until we can get the Atascadero vehicle back in service here. So that is one of the real benefits of consolidation. It's reducing the overall number of vehicles in the county.
Thank you. My next question is for city staff. On here, it said that they were retired. The vehicles had the zero value and had been retired. I think the last one was retired in 2024. Are those all being transferred over at zero value?
They are, and it's a little unusual, only because the state and federal regulates when those shuttles or buses can be considered retired. And that's why there's almost zero value to them. They have a 5-year shelf life or 150,000 miles. They have not reached their 150,000 miles. They're past the 5 years. And so what that really means is if we didn't necessarily go with RTA, we just kind of kept doing our own dollar rate services, we would have to aggressively go after federal and state grants to do bus replacements. That's what we did for the Mobility Trans Class 5 transit van. That's the amount that we just purchased with a grant that would be transferred over to RTA.
Thank you. Those amounts seem so much smaller than the millions I see sitting on the slow cog in the RTA because of all of the state-of-the-art EV vehicles.
It would be our intent to retire those vehicles because they have reached the end of their useful lives, but we retire them through a program we have through it's an auction house basically that we surplus vehicles through.
And I might just jump in here too. Currently, RTA is a lien holder on a lot of these vehicles because we're a sub-recipient through RTA. So right now we get funding that funnels through RTA. So they are lien holders on these vehicles, all these vehicles anyways.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Councilmember Funk.
Yeah, just one quick question. The staff report is you mentioned, Brian, that the drivers would be able to move over. So I wanted to check with Mr. Strom if we have a couple of part-time dispatchers that Ryan mentioned. Would those be able to have job opportunities within the RTA as well?
We would certainly want to talk with them. Yes.
Okay, they'll have that opportunity. Okay, thank you. And the intent is to maintain the service levels that this city designates for these services.
Yes.
Okay, and just do it more efficiently. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any questions? Okay, I just have one, and that is, we all know the fiscal year ends June 30th, starts July 1st. Why is this effective June 22nd? That seems a little, might create some accounting complications.
Well, one of the main reasons is because the payroll starts that time and we can get the new employees on our insurance at that time. So it's really a payroll start to take care of the employee.
Got it. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, let's open this up to public comment, seeing if any member of the public would like to comment on this item. Okay, seeing no one approach the podium, I'm going to bring it back to City Council for any comments and or a motion. Anybody? Okay, go ahead.
I'll move approval of the staff recommendation.
Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Funk. A second by Mayor Pro Tem Daris. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
and Mayor Bourbeau.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. With that, we are going to proceed to our next item, C2, the Charles Paddock Zoo accreditation update and recommended investment plan. I'm going to turn this over to our Community Services and Program Director, Ms. Terry Banish.
Thank you, Mayor Bourbeau and City Council. All right, so this evening we are here to talk about the Charles Paddock Zoo and where we are on the path to accreditation and details behind the recommended investment plan. We will provide a detailed update on where we are in the accreditation process and what it will look like as we work to become financially sustainable through our investment plan and revenue opportunities. And as we know, accreditation is important. The zoo has been accredited zoological facility for the past 30 years, and now having the first achieved accredited accreditation back in 1991, which is really a huge accomplishment, not only for the hometown zoo, but also for our city. There are currently 251 AZA accredited zoological institutions out of nearly 2,500 worldwide that exhibit animals to the public. In the zoo industry, the accreditation is the gold standard for animal care and welfare, and it's truly an honor of which we can be incredibly proud. In the US, there are entire states that don't have even one AZA accredited zoo, and we're lucky enough to have one right here in our hometown. Amongst all of this, it also confirms our commitment to animal welfare, also with our species protection and conservation mindedness. And it also increases eligibility for funding and grants from certain foundations, corporations, and other sources, along with a list of other benefits. We've been busy, that I can tell you. So since April of 2024, at our mid-year meeting, upon approval and direction from council to work on accreditation, we have diligently been working through the process. From the initial application to hiring and realigning of staff, recruitment of a new zoo director, who's here in our audience, working with an AZA assigned mentor in the summer, and on to the AZA inspection team that recently visited mid-December. Their review is positive, and we submitted our follow-up to their recommendations this month. We are ready for AZA commission hearing. Yeah, I was thinking of teary-eyed on that. So March 26th, and we're on the path to being accredited for sure. So we're very excited about where we are today. So for future financial sustainability, how will we get there? We will provide a quick recap of how the 305,000 from the city and the 300,000 from the Friends has helped us set the stage, for success. We will talk about how we would be working with the 1 million in seed money towards capital improvements, and how the challenge investment of 340,000 will be key to put in place for the allocation of resources to help address maintenance, habitats, and staffing issues. So as we get started, we'll take these one at a time. The AZA accreditation budget of 305,000 from this year was allocated towards quite a number of upgrades for existing habitats, including a new roof to Tiger, interior and exterior coating for the spider monkey habitat, upgraded enclosure and roof for the ambassador animals, the new Cerrado aviaries that feature the Toco toucans and the hyacinth macaws, new paint and upgrade to the red panda habitat. In addition, we're currently in permitting for the remodel of the operations building, which will house the new kitchen, vet clinic, and workshop area, and towards a host of improvements throughout the zoo. And it doesn't go unnoticed. Visitors comment every day on the improvements that are being made, and it has made a difference. So want to report on that as well. Then we have our 1 million from the general fund to be used as seed money towards capital improvements, and basically towards tiger expansion in phase 2 of Madagascar. So this slide highlights the tiger habitat expansion, which is super unique. And area number 1 is currently where the tiger habitat is. And across the midway there, you see a tunnel, like a, kind of like how a hamster would go through a tunnel over the midway into the other side, where you have a pond area and grassland for the tiger. So an expanded habitat. And this expansion, we are working with a zoo designer who specializes in zoos that our zoo director, Dr. Cynthia, worked with at Zoo Tampa. So we're excited to have Jumana on board helping us with these expansions. In addition, the phase 2 of Madagascar, what's important to note here is that the Friends of the Charles Paddock Zoo are working to launch their capital campaign, and the AppBid board recently increased their assessment from 2 to 2.5%, with the 0.5% assisting with capital improvement projects like these. So this is the expansion of Madagascar. There'll be more to come on that. But some exciting things to really get behind and market and start driving traffic to the zoo. As far as the 340,000 challenge investment is what we are calling that. That will help us with the necessary funding to bring on a full-time zookeeper to assist with growing programs like animal encounters and zookeeper talks, plus a full-time maintenance position that will assist with ongoing maintenance and improvements at the zoo that keep us from having to hire from outside the zoo and spend a lot more money. At the end of the 3 years, we will be able to cover the cost of these 2 positions. So both of these positions will contribute to adding more activities and programs, plus saving the city money with ongoing improvements and maintenance. Revenue. We are all about revenue for the zoo. And where we are right now, the city, the zoo costs the city approximately 1.5 million. And what we have here is the zoo brings in 750,000 in revenue, but a 750,000 deficit. So what we are working on here is to reduce that deficit. So the provisional year 1, 25-26, would be a provisional year where dollars are reinvested back into the zoo to keep these improvements happening. In year 2, the deficit would be decreased to 600,000. And then year 1 of the new accreditation cycle plus additional staffing costs of the 42,500. And then in year 3, we would decrease the deficit to 500,000 and the additional plus the additional staffing cost of 127,500, with the zoo becoming more financially sustainable by the next accreditation cycle. That is the goal with this. How do we do that? So we are planning to drive attendance and revenue, introducing Zoo 2.0, because we got this. We have rebranding and taking the zoo through a name change with a new logo that focuses on where we're located, new brand guidelines, color palette, everything I get excited about as far as marketing goes and really getting folks to the zoo. We will certainly be driving traffic along with a robust marketing campaign to support it that will add top of mind awareness both here locally and outside of our county. We also will be activating an online portal at full capacity that will help us with ticket sales, animal donations, events, birthday party reservations, animal encounter tickets, zoo membership, et cetera, and convenient access and user-friendly ability to expand programs, grow revenue, better manage and grow popular events, and ultimately increase awareness for the zoo. Implementation of revenue streams outside of event sponsorship. We do a lot of event sponsorships with a lot of different companies all over our city, to annual zoo sponsorships. So for instance, we just had our spider monkey habitat be presented by MGP Coatings, so a sponsor over 3 months. So that's a really cool thing to be able to do. And also we can add promotional opportunities and all that good stuff with it. New animal encounters, expanded activities, camps and programs, improved hours of operation, renewed focus on events. The list is solid and it's very attainable, and it's easy to get excited about what we have in store. So we're looking forward to taking the zoo to the next level, again, Zoo 2.0, because I think that's cool. Through our new capital campaign, animal enclosures, increased exposure with the rebrand and online ticketing platform, we're poised for success and we have the team to do it. In addition, we are working on a new business plan to be complete in June and working with the Friends on a capital campaign. The opportunities are indeed endless. In regards to fiscal impact, we are asking for the expenditure of $1 million of budgeted zoo project funds and a commitment to fund up to $340,000 in additional staff costs. And in 3 years, we'll be able to take care of the 2 full-time positions. That concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Banish. I'm going to see if I want to also welcome, I see our former city manager, Rochelle Rickard, who is now a member of the Friends of the Zoo board. If you have any questions for her, I'm sure she'd be willing to answer those. But do we have any questions from council members? I'm going to start at this end with Councilmember Peak. No questions? No questions? Well, we'll go with Councilmember Funk first. We're going this way.
And again, thank you. This is all very exciting. One question on the zoo revenue forecasts. I see line items for Friends of the Charles Paddock Zoo donations and partnerships and grants and sponsorship. Is that in addition to, or does that include the money coming from the ATBID and the Chamber of Commerce sponsorship through the wine festival?
That's in it. That's not counted in this. This is
separate.
Aside from that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Newsom.
I think all of us are excited about the opportunities that are in front of us. I know coming onto council, early on, we were tasked with looking at the zoo and its profitability. I do have questions on the bottom line of the net income. When we were looking at it years ago, which I think is close to 6 years now, it had a loss of 400,000. And now we're saying we're losing 750,000, but we've reduced some of our camps and projects. What is causing that to continue to increase in a deficit?
I would say on the revenue piece of that, I know I don't want to blame everything on COVID, but going back to 2020 and rebounding from that, that's probably hasn't helped us, but I'm going to defer to Director Rangel on this one.
Certainly, there's been a lot that has happened in the last series of 6 years or so. So you bring up a great point. I mean, we have adjusted salaries with the D20 move, and which impacted zoo staff as well. And even the cost of animal food is just shooting up. The cost of utilities is shooting up. So those are things that we can't really control. A piece of that, what we can control, is the number of animals at the zoo, which I think is part of the plan to kind of reduce those. And when you're reducing those, you're reducing your food costs. So there are pieces of this plan that will impact both the expense side and the revenue side with that.
So the plan that you gave us on the revenue forecast on page 78 shows that an estimated 27-28, that the net income deficit would go back down to 440,000. At any point, is the zoo going to be able to sustain itself completely and entirely without funding?
I think we're on a good route here. I don't know that any of us can answer that question, perhaps.
I think our
City Manager
commitment, our
Lewis?
commitment to the council was at the end of the next accreditation cycle, 5 years from now, we would be really trying to zero in on that.
Yeah.
And that was the direction you gave me back in April, to do all we needed to do to be reaccredited and be moving to full sustainability within 5 years. And so that's the target we're shooting for. You only see the next 3 in the forecast.
Okay. And when we met back in earlier in 2024, were we looking at that additional supplemental 340 on top of that, or is this just something new as we're going through the accreditation process being so substantial, and that we have deferred maintenance and such that we have to take that much larger leap to sustain the zoo?
Yes, so it was very clear to me now, being taught by our new director and having attended a few conferences, that it's a moving target accreditation. And so the maintenance level you have to have at the zoo, and the animal care and enrichment, and the conservation work you have to do continues to be more. And we had some catch up to still do from our current operational levels, and to have the zoo that we want to have that provides the cultural enrichment, social, and conservation activities requires this staffing level, I believe.
I know we all have to do projects, especially now that the weeds are growing everywhere. Will the Friends of the Zoo be sharing their business plan and their strategic plans for the future with council?
Yes, they will. Making sure. Yes.
I know that we can all ask. I know it's always exciting to see the ambition that we have out here and actually see it come true. So thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you. I did want to comment off. Dr. Cynthia Stringfield, our new zoo director, is in the audience, and she's been doing a lot of things. I want to clarify, though. My understanding is that you are also reducing costs, and I think it was alluded to, by reducing the animal collection, in particular those that have not been on display, and that can be substantial cost savings there in terms of, feed care, medical care, and of course time in terms of record keeping, that sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, whatever those savings are right now, those will be invested back into other exhibits, et cetera. Is that?
Yes, that's
Fair-
correct. And
fair
I mean,
assessment?
we can't throw a number at it, but if we were to give a kind of a little bit of a number, it'd be maybe 20,000 that we could save there. We're also looking at our zoo operations, our hours of operation, and how long we're open, and if that's really necessary. Hours like even going 10 to 5 in the summer, maybe should just be 10 to 4 daily throughout the whole year. And then looking maybe at the operations when we really don't have anybody at the zoo, like on a Tuesday, Wednesday type of thing. So we're looking at all the different ways to reduce costs.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to see if I'm sorry, Councilmember Beek.
On the page 77, of the C2. Between 2027, and then July 1st to June 30th, why is it broken out? Can you clarify why it's broken out one year, 1/2 year, one half year, then 1 year? Why is it broken out like that? Because the numbers are 42,000 or 2 times in a row. Just kind of curious why it's broken out that way, not year after year.
I think that was just how the incentive was structured. So it was fully funded for 18 months to really give the chance the zoo to ramp up, to be sustainable and cover these costs. And then as an incentive to meet that timeline, the next 6 months is 50%, followed by the following year at 25%. So it really is a kind of a confidence builder in the staff that this is a structured ramp up that we need to meet, and motivates people to contribute and get the zoo rolling.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comments or questions from council at this time, I want to see if any member of the public would like to comment on this issue.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's been a while. I'm Rochelle Rickard. I am the president of Friends of the Zoo. And I am just here to let you know, you guys aren't doing this alone. You have a big group and a growing group of very passionate people behind the zoo that are doing a very similar plan, trying to increase our revenues, look at our expenses, try and make sure that we are maximizing how much that we can directly support to the zoo. Over the last year, we've done a lot. We've done some preliminary designs, paid for that contract with Jumana that Terry talked about. We just approved a complete land survey for the whole entire zoo so we can start building those projects. We do have a goals and action plan that, thank you, Mayor Borbeau, sorry, and Jim and Terry and Dr. Cynthia all attended. We're looking to increase our revenues to $500,000 by the end of next year. That's going from $100,000 for 22-23. So we're really ramping up there. Good news is we're right about 3 times what we were this time last year. So we're making substantial progress. We are rolling out a new membership tier and platform. We're excited about that. It'd be a lot more flexible, a lot more benefits, but a lot more, it'll cost a little bit more. You'll see an email going out this week on that. We're pretty excited about that. We plan to double our membership revenue within this year, which then also means that we can double our support to the city. Half of our membership revenue goes directly to the zoo for operations. That'll help tremendously with that revenue number. We are kicking off a capital campaign. We've already done a little bit of pre-kickoff on that. That was very successful, and are excited to kick off more. So we're here and we're all working towards the same thing. Thank you very much for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to council for comment and motion. I did want to ask the city manager then in this, or Ms. Rangel, the spreadsheet or table, if you will, reflects some, but not the substantial increase in Friends of the Zoo donations that Ms. Rickard spoke of. So if they're as successful as she hopes that they will be, that would accelerate this timetable to some extent?
Yes, and we believe she absolutely can be, and we're working together. But I felt from fiduciary perspective, we wanted to be very conservative in showing you this information. But we know Ms. Rickard and her team will be awesome.
Well, we know somebody will work very hard to make that happen and is very capable. And by the way, for those who don't know, there is a lot of new membership on the Friends of the Zoo board, and with some with very great experience, both in this arena and in very substantial management experience of large organizations. So, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good not to count our chickens before they're hatched, if you will, but we look forward to that success because the Friends' success will ensure the sustainability of the zoo. Okay, with that, do we have any council comments or are we ready for a motion? Councilmember News.
I have another question. You had brought up about membership. Are we changing the cost for admittance entry of the zoo? I know this council early on had set that years ago.
As far as increasing membership?
Increasing the cost for
Admission.
admission.
Yes.
Well,
We're
that-
considering increasing the cost for admission.
Okay, and that will be brought back to us as we
Yep.
do the budget. Okay.
Fee schedule, yeah.
Okay.
It will be brought back there.
I do vaguely remember having adjusting fee schedules based on children's age so that families that had multiple children could take multiple trips to the zoo. So I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that we still address that when that does come back to us. Thank you.
You got it.
And I'll move approval of staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Newsom, a second by Councilmember Funk. Do we have any comment on it, discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Newsom,
Yes.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Councilmember Peak,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Daris,
Yes.
Mayor Barbeau.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. All right, we look forward to progress on that front. And thank you to all your work you've done so far, especially you, Dr. Stringfield. So, okay, with that, we will move to our next item, which is council announcements and committee report regarding, actions we've taken outside of this arena or at our committees. So I'll start on my left with Councilmember Peak.
Yeah, I've continued to have, coffee with a lot of business owners and talking to residents. I did have our first finance committee. It was a joint committee with C-Stock, so it wasn't the full shebang, but it was definitely awesome to see members of the public that are on that committee, especially our newer members on the committee, being able to ask transparent questions of our city staff and being able to be a witness to that was quite special. Thank you.
So it was a half a shebang then.
It was a chef.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Daris.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, somebody's mic is open. Okay, thank you. Capsule met last week, and of the highlights, they submitted for lots of money to do lots of good things in the county. One is to submit a bid to the county for $300,000 to support warming centers around, at least in the North County. Well, it says Morro Bay, Atascadero, and Paso, but I think the bulk of that is probably going to go towards Morro Bay because we have Echo that does a great job here. I think they might share some of that, but for the most part, I think they're going to focus in Morro Bay. They also want to apply for a nomination for a Lowe's hometown project, which is interesting. So the award would be up to $100,000. If it's received, it would be used for renovations at Prado, 40 Prado and Slow. Another one is I'm applying for a $495,000 to a grant to provide enhanced care management. The funds would cover 2 full-time care coordinators, purchase of a vehicle, and outreach supplies. And the last big one was to submit a bid to SLO County for $280,000 to support overnight parking for 2 years among 6 different sites. They had the one site that happened recently that did not work out well, but I think they've got a different plan going forward. This is 6 different sites, and it's like I said, this would support for 2 years. So anyhow, those are the big items for that, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Funk.
Yeah, my activities have been fairly quiet, but I did enjoy participating at the Coffee with a Cop that our wonderful police department hosted, and Councilmember Peak was there as well.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Newsom.
I too was at the city schools committee meeting, or I'm sorry, going through the list here. The finance committee meeting, no city schools, that's out a few months. And SLOCOG and RTA are going to meet on March 5th.
Thank you. I attended a Integrated Waste Management Authority meeting where we engaged a search firm, Peckham McKinney, to search for a new executive director, as our current executive director has announced his retirement for April 17th. I also attended a mayor's meeting last Friday in Arroyo Grande, and State Senator Laird was there and spoke about some of his efforts and some of the bills that he's introduced. He also is working to restore some of the homeless funding for some of the programs has been cut in the governor's initial budget. Also, and next month's mayor's meeting will be here in Atascadero. We'll be hosting. And let's see, also, I attended last week a orientation for new board members for Central Coast Community Energy. And first board meeting for that I will attend will be March 19th. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any individual determinations they would like to discuss? All right, with that, I believe we are done, and it is only what? It's only 7:35. I don't know who won that bet, but it's all right. Thank you. We're adjourned.